Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of Cabinet on the 21st of July. I'll take apologies for absence first, please.
Thank you, Leader. I have apologies from Andrew Stevens, Councillor Andrew Stevens.
Okay, are there any other apologies for today? I don't see
none
any
indicated.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to disclosures of personal or prejudicial interest. Are there any interest to declare today? Councillor Pugh.
Personal, please, as in the Governor's report, because I'm a councillor with when the governors aren't in the same school, chair of governors. So.
Okay, thank you. Any from the room itself?
Can I ask a question, please, regarding item 16, because it's the rollout of free school meals, which affects all schools, I assume, primary schools, and as a governor, is it personal interest?
I wouldn't say this is a personal interest, councillor. I think it's a fairly high level report affecting all schools.
Okay, any other declarations?
Councillor Smith.
Local Authority Governor Appointment Panel, I will speak on but not vote.
Okay, Councillor Gibbard.
I think probably should declare personal interest as my husband works at Alpha Comprehensive School.
Okay, any remaining disclosures? If not, we'll move on to the minutes of the previous meetings. They're in your pack there, pages 1 to 4. I've had no amendments. I'm happy to take any questions if people have them. If not, I'm happy to move them as a true record. Could I ask for a seconder, please?
Happy to second.
Okay, could I ask all in favour? Okay, thank you very much. Those are accepted. On to then announcements of the Leader of the Council. I have none for today's meeting. So we'll move to public question time. Mr. Evans, do you have any questions from members of the public today?
None submitted, Leader.
Okay, thank you. We'll move then to councillor question time. Are there any councillors present who wish to ask a question?
No councillors present, Leader.
Thank you very much. Okay, our first full item today then is supporting the challenges of, in learning from the recovery of the pandemic. So welcome Councillor Mike Dirk, Chair of the Policy Development Committee, which are now obviously Corporate Development Delivery Committees. So Councillor Dirk, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. The committee in the year took a very full and challenging approach to dealing with unprecedented issues for Swansea throughout the pandemic. And I think this report, a 14-page report, reflects all of the expertise that the committee was able to benefit from local authority and external agencies to allow us to understand the issues. And the result of the committee is this 14-page report with 10 recommendations listed on pages 1 and page 2. I'm not going to say anything other than that about the report because I think it stands alone for itself and it shows what a robust approach was taken in the year. All I would say is that it does take a village to raise a child, and in section 2.3 what we have is a little summary of the key areas that emerged as a consistent focus all the way throughout the year. And the idea that we see inspiring and motivational learning champions at every level, really, throughout the education system in Swansea, and 3 pillars that we need to focus on as we go forward. Reaching educational potential for all pupils, especially those in adverse circumstances, vocational education tied to the city deal and local business, and physical literacy, sport, health, and outdoor education. So Chair, through you, I'd ask the Cabinet to support this report and the recommendations on page 1, and I'm happy to take any questions colleagues might have.
Thank you, Councillor Dirk, and can I firstly thank you for the work that you and the committee have done, and for the report that's before us today. As you say, some significant recommendations there for us to consider as a Cabinet, but again, a really good piece of work, and as you say, demonstrating the strong approach that we are taking in this area. I will therefore happily move this report on your behalf. Could I ask for a seconder? I can see Councillor Smith raising his hand, so I'll go to Councillor Smith next.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can I echo your comments to Councillor Dirk and the committee for the quality of the report they produced. You know, this is a detailed piece of work that I know reflects the review and discussion that the committee has undertaken over a period of over 12 months. And they've met an impressive range of people in undertaking this piece of work. So it's a robust and evidence-based approach, which I think is a credit to them. There are issues here around awareness raising, there's issues here around planning, and there are issues here around practice, both for us as an authority and for the schools with which we work. You know, the way it takes forward recommendations in areas like adverse childhood experience, the use of learning champions, the development of vocational education, all of these, and those are just three of the examples from the report, they are areas where we need and want to develop as an authority. I'm happy to take this forward and use this as the basis of policy moving forward, and I think it will help forge the direction for Swansea in future. So I'd echo what the leader said. Thank you very much, both to yourself and to the committee, because I think this is a first-class piece of work. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you both. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I can see Councillor Lewis has a hand up. Councillor Lewis.
Yes, thank you, Leader, and thank you very much to Councillor Dirk for bringing this report here today. It's no secret that I am particularly passionate about encouraging vocational studies across Swansea. We know in construction there are huge trade skills gaps. So I'm particularly delighted with recommendation 7 and really pleased that the committee have highlighted this as a priority for this local authority. So thank you very much for an excellent piece of work, and I'm really looking forward to us taking this forward and increasing those vocational opportunities in our schools.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Any other members wish to speak on this item? It's been moved and seconded. One final comment I would make is that, as Councillor Dirk said, it does take a village, and you know, in politics, it also takes every party to engage with this process. And I know that Councillor Dirk has led the committee, which is cross-party in terms of this piece of work. Still disappointing, though, to see that the Liberal Democrats refuse to participate in any work of any committee that is dealing with policy development. And that is something that we will continue to criticise them for, because they are elected members, and topics like this are hugely important to the future of our communities and the aspirations of our learners. So I would again urge our Liberal Democrat colleagues to actually step up to the plate here and do the job that they were elected to do and join the committees so that they can add to the work of this council. But thank you, Councillor Dirk, again for the work that you and the members of that committee have done to produce this report. With that, Mr. Evans, is this item for adoption? If it is, then we can launch the vote, please.
Yeah, vote has been launched, Leader. Okay, has anybody been unable to vote electronically? I haven't had everybody in yet. Councillor Robert Francis Davis? That's a vote for. Any others unable to vote electronically? I can see them. Yeah. For. Councillor Cyril Anderson, for.
Can I just check? I'm not allowed to vote, am I?
You're not allowed to vote. No, you're not a cabinet member. No, that's unanimous for, Leader.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. Excellent. Thank you again, Councillor Dirk, for that item. We'll move then on to agenda item 8, which is local authority governor appointments. We have Councillor Smith, and Councillor Smith has a slight amendment to make before introducing the report.
Yes, thank you, Leader. Can I make one amendment to remove nomination number 2, Bishopston Comprehensive School, and otherwise I would move the report.
Thank you very much. So Councillor Smith has moved the report as amended. I'm happy to second that. Are there any comments or questions from any members? If not, again, Mr. Evans, if we could go to the vote, please.
Thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. Yeah, for some reason it's refusing to leave my screen. Let me try that again. It's launched now. Right, anybody need to vote verbally? Oh, Councillor Rob Francis Davis, 4. And I'm 1 vote missing, I can see. Oh, yes, yours, of course. No, that's unanimous, 4, Leader. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much. That is carried. On to item agenda 9 then, which is the capital programme authorisation for the Flying Start grant for the forthcoming year. Again, Councillor Smith.
Yes, thank you, Leader. Flying Start, we know the value of this scheme and what is added to the youngest children here in Swansea. This is a grant that will enhance the facilities in 6, I think, settings across Swansea, and I'm happy to move the report.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Very happy to second. Are there any comments or questions from other Cabinet members on the Flying Start report? If not, again, Mr. Evans, if we could launch the vote, please.
Thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. If I can take any verbal votes with anybody that's unable to vote electronically. Councillor Robert Smith. 4. Councillor Robert Francis Davis. 4. Any others? Just check the result. I can see that's unanimous, 4, Leader.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, colleagues. On to agenda item 10 then, which is the Western Bay Area Planning Board Governance Framework. And I'll go to Councillor Pugh for this item.
Sorry, Leader. I'm trying to work off 2 pieces of equipment here. Unfortunately, I think mine are playing up this morning as well. But just bear with me 2 seconds for me to be able to see in front of me. Yeah, just to the report is always just an excellent report as usual. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place this morning. Just looking to put it forward and everything to approve sort of a financial governance and risk sharing agreement with the authority, with the area planning board and everything. You'll have to bear with me. I am sorry.
Given that you've got IT problems there, Councillor,
I have. I'm struggling to read it in front of me. I'm sorry.
That's okay, no problem. Look,
I can't pull it up on my screen.
That's fine. So for members, we'll see in their reports on page 38 there, you've got 2 recommendations, which are the Western Bay Area Planning Board's governance framework is endorsed, and that is covered in the body reports and in the appendix. And approval is sought to enter into the financial governance and risk sharing agreement with the responsible authorities of the Area Planning Board, which are listed there in section 2.3. So if there are no further, Councillor Pugh, I'll move the report on your behalf.
I couldn't remember that off the top of my head. It wasn't a straightforward wording. I'm sorry.
That's not a problem. That happens with technology sometimes. Okay, Councillor Pugh, did you wish to second the report?
Yes, please. I'd like the second report. Sorry about that.
No problem. And we'll go then to Cabinet. Are there any questions or comments on the report? If not, if Mr. Evans can launch the vote, please.
Thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. Shall I take any votes from those unable to vote electronically? Mr. Robert Smith. Any others? Have a look. There you are. That's unanimous, 4, Leader.
Thank you very much. If we go next to item 11, which is the report of corporate services and performance for the annual performance monitoring report 21-22, Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, thanks, Leader. Before I start and move the report, what I would like to add is my gratitude to Richard Rowlands for the work that he does behind the scenes on this report. He does a lot of work on this on a regular basis, and also to congratulate Andrew Stevens, who previously Councillor Andrew Stevens this used to sit with his responsibility. What I would say before we go into it, I think the report itself shows, particularly on page 127, there's overall 50% of compatible indicators shows they're improving or stayed the same compared to 2021. What I would bring attention to, particularly in safeguarding, there are 18 new safeguarding indicators as a result of the National Service Performance Framework. So they now make up the majority of the indicators for safeguarding and safeguarding priority. There are no compatible data at this stage. So what we will be doing is obviously monitor that going forward. The report obviously indicates lots of work that's gone on, particularly in education. I know some of my members, my colleagues will probably come in at this stage. There's certainly some good work. 5 out of 8 of the indicators shows that they are either improving or stayed the same. I don't want to go into any depth in this, but just to congratulate all my my colleagues and particularly officers for the work that's gone on. It's been difficult times. And when you look what we've gone through with COVID over the last 2 years, I think this performance report shows that we are improving. We are getting there slowly. So I personally would like to move the report and move the recommendations. One recommendation, I'd like to move that report, please. Just ask if somebody could second the report.
I'm happy to second.
Yeah, I'm me.
Leader.
Yeah, Leader, you're muted.
Perhaps if I can comment as well on parts of my portfolio which are referred to in the report. I would specifically like to congratulate the work of building services, our housing teams, and particularly our frontline homelessness teams as well. It's been a really difficult time during this pandemic, but nevertheless, we've strived and achieved some fantastic things during a very difficult time, it's fair to say. So we've achieved Welsh Housing Quality Standard at the end of 2021. We've converted buildings in the uplands to create some much needed emergency and temporary accommodation. And even though throughout this pandemic, we have seen increased numbers in our bed and breakfast, and I'm afraid to say the cost of living crisis won't ease those pressures anytime soon, the teams are working flat out to help support people, and the people living in the B&Bs therefore are not the same people. It is a constant flow, moving people into accommodation and therefore helping other people who become homeless. So I think it's fair to say the new builds are welcome, the new 6 bungalows which are being built in West Cross, and also the properties where we've recently handed over keys to tenants at Hillview in Clace. And I think it's fair to say those were very warmly received by our tenants. So I'm really pleased and really delighted with the work from our teams during perhaps the most difficult time this council has ever faced.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis.
Sorry, Leader. Councillor Robert Smith is indicating as well.
Okay, Councillor Smith.
Yes, thank you, Leader. And again, I'd echo what the Deputy Leader just said. And in relation to the education portfolio, I think there are some positive stories to highlight here. And I mention in particular the work around Swansea's readiness for the new ALN framework, and also the establishment of the new regional school support partnership. But I think the lesson I take back from this, and it links to the previous report, the PDC report, is the need for us as a council to respond to the impact of the pandemic and the impact that's had on some of the most vulnerable children and young people in Swansea. That's got to be at the core of what we do. And I think this report shows that we are already taking steps in the right direction. And I'm sure that what the PDC report will do will be to galvanise that work further, and I look forward to helping to take that forward, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I'll go to Councillor Gibbard next, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to draw attention to the safeguarding section of the report. As Councillor Hopkins already mentioned, there's new indicators there, so it will be useful to monitor that going forward. But it's continuing to be a challenging period for both adult services and child and family services. So I just wanted to pay tribute to all our staff in those areas for their efforts in such challenging times. As it explains in the report, there's been Wales-wide shortages of social workers and care workers, problems with our national information systems, and of course COVID-19 very much still with us. But nevertheless, we're forging ahead with our strategies to deliver early help and prevention and expanding our provision in many areas. So I'd also like to say special thanks to the many families across Swansea who've been working with us to support their loved ones in these difficult circumstances.
Thank you, Councillor Gibbard. Councillor Pugh.
Yes, sorry, hopefully I won't ramble as much as the last time now, but I'd like to really sort of say there's been a very hard period of time for everybody in Swansea, for poverty underpinning absolutely everything here. It's been hard all round, and the partnership working internally and externally has just been second to none. And the things that they've been able to achieve from, like I said, within the poverty team, employability teams, welfare rights teams, I could tell you stories every day of the life-changing differences the teams are making to people. Everybody, as other colleagues have said around the table here today now, everybody is working with the goal of helping people, and this report identifies that all the way through it, of how people are pulling together and time, because people have been hit hard. The benefit system doesn't help employability, it helped jobs and people working at all, and we see this right across Swansea. And this report, is a snapshot of what's gone on, and I think all our staff and the forums and everybody work with a credit to Swansea. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pugh. Are there any other Cabinet members who want to comment on the report? Mr. Evans, anybody else in the room?
None indicated, Leader.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Again, apologies, I couldn't come directly back in after Councillor Hopkins had a little technical issue. But again, agree with the comments made by Cabinet members. I think, the report is again a positive one, showing an upward trend in performance in a number of areas. But that is due to the efforts of our fantastic staff who have helped demonstrate once again their commitment and ability to deliver for the people of Swansea. And, we are very proud to have such a good, strong and dedicated workforce. And, again, I would like to add to what other Cabinet members have said in terms of their efforts over the last period again. Well, thank you for that. The report, I believe, has been moved and seconded. So, Mr. Evans, very happy to go to the vote now, please.
There's a slight delay. I seem to have technical issues as well. It's lodged now. Thank you. Yeah. Right. Anyone unable to vote electronically? Councillor Robert Francis Davis. 4. Any others need to vote? Yeah, there seems to be something going on. I will get the Wi-Fi checked after the meeting. Let's have a look. Yeah, this is unanimous for, Leader.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. We'll move then to item 12, first of all, financial reports today. Firstly, it's the revenue outturn for 21-22, housing revenue account. This is the report of the Chief 151 officer. So in Mr. Smith's absence, I believe Mr. Dong is with us to present the report. So, Mr. Dong.
Thank you, Chair. As Lady just said, this is the first of 3 reports on the agenda today, outlining the outturn position for both capital and revenue spend for both the HRA and the General Fund. First report before you, item 12, is the revenue outturn for the HRA. And as indicated on the top of page 185, shows the HRA reporting a budget deficit for the year of just over £1 million. The reasons for that budget deficit against the planned budgeted expenditure are outlined at the top of page 185. And the combination of reasons, primarily being the increased activity in dealing with tenants and revenue repairs to tenants' properties, but also a technical reason in that it was the first year in the implementation of the revised MRP policy following the subsidy buyout, which resulted in an unbudgeted for increase in contribution to fund capex. These were slightly offset by a decrease in bad debt provision and some additional income as outlined in 1.7. The recommendation on page 184 asks members to approve the proposed transfer from reserves equal and opposite to this budget deficit to balance the budget. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dong. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you to Mr. Dong. Very happy to support this report here today, which might sound a bit strange that I'm actually happy to support a report which is £1 million in deficit. But the positives of this are that we are seeing a return to normality in terms of dealing with our maintenance and repairs of our council homes. And we haven't seen that. We have actually been dealing with deficits over the last 2 years, understandably, where we've only dealt with emergency repairs due to the safety of people in their homes. So this is actually quite a positive that we are spending more on maintenance and repairs. And you will see in the recommendation to note the variations, but to approve £1 million or just over £1 million transfer from reserves. This is obviously from the housing revenue account budget, which is the council rents are paid into that pot, and that is a ring-fenced pot of money. So it comes from the council rents. So very happy to move and very happy to support. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. I'm very happy to second the report. Are there any Cabinet members who wish to ask any questions or make any comments on the report? If not,
none
Mr.
indicated.
Evans. Okay, Mr. Evans, if we can go to the vote again, please.
That's the vote launched, Leader. Okay, any verbal votes? No, that's unanimous for, Leader.
Thank you, colleagues. I'll move to item 13 then, which is the second of our financial reports, and again go back to Mr. Dong.
Thank you, Chair. This report sets out the capital outturn position for both the General Fund and the HRA for the financial year 21-22. Following from last year, it'd be hard to follow the capital programme that was delivered last year, which was the largest on record. But notwithstanding that, the capital programme that was delivered in the last year was the second largest on record that we've got in recent times. So although on page 188 we're reporting that we've got a £51 million underspend, the absolute figures of the capital programme that have been delivered in the year are unprecedented, save for last year's huge programme that was delivered. The outturn position and the reasons for that underspend have been well documented. I know the progress of the capital programme has been reported on a periodic basis in budget monitoring on a quarterly basis to Cabinet members. However, it's important to reiterate the reasons for that underspend in the programme, largely due to external factors. Reference was already been made to the buoyancy in the construction industry and the difficulty in obtaining and sourcing available contractors. the need to adhere to public procurement rules, again, feeds into that delay in delivering the programme. Again, Welsh Government are often offering grants in year, which have to be spent in year, and then displace other programmed capital projects in the pipeline. Notwithstanding the reported underspend, the understanding is that those projects will be delivered. However, they will be slipped into the following financial year. Again, happy to take questions, Chair. Nothing further to add, I don't think.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dong. Yes, I think as you referenced there, we've had two exceptionally ambitious years in terms of the capital programme, which reflect the ambitions that we set out as an administration. The capital programme is the second biggest we've ever had, and it remains the biggest per head of population in Wales. That is delivering, despite some slippage in the costs here. New schools, new housing, new offices, new builds, new jobs, new opportunities all across the region, and it's absolutely important for us that you made the point that this isn't about scaling back that ambition or the capital programme. It's a timing issue in terms of when the money will be spent, because the money is still being invested to support the delivery of the priorities that we set out. So again, very, very happy to see this report with us today. And of course, there is always a little bit of a silver lining to some of this, because the timing issues also create a little bit of a pressure valve in terms of the costs of the schemes, and that obviously helps the central treasury in the council as well. So again, very happy to move this report and look to colleagues for a seconder, please.
Please, the second, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Francis Davis. Are there any comments or questions on this item? If not, Mr. Evans, we'll go to the vote again, please.
Thank you. The vote has been launched. Okay, is anybody unable to vote? Councillor Louise Gibbard? Okay. I'm still one missing. No idea who. Okay, only 9 I've received, right? So are you all in favour, just for absolute clarity?
Yep.
Yeah, that's unanimous, Leader.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, colleagues. I'm back then to Mr. Dong for our final financial report this morning, which is the Revenue Outturn and Savings Tracker 21-22. Mr. Dong.
Thank you, Chair. This is the final report on the agenda and reporting the outturn, and it's the longest of the three with the most detail. If I largely break it down into three parts, the first part of the report informs Cabinet members the quantum of the underspend for the year. The second part of the report sets out the challenges facing the council looking ahead. And the third part of the report makes some firm recommendations about what to do with that underspend. So as you can see on from page 200 onwards, in the first part of the report, and you would have been communicated this in budget monitoring reports during the year, this quantifies the final outturn position. As you can see on page 201 in 2.1, how that £41 million underspend is broken down. Largely, you've been reported about the emerging net underspend on services at the top there of 20 million. This has largely arisen due to emerging grant support from Welsh Government that arose during the year, which has displaced internal funds. Hence, we can bank and save those internal funds for future years. Those are obviously one-offs. Obviously in response to the ongoing response to the pandemic, but still welcome. And some of the other underspends highlighted at 2.1 are underspends on certain technical reserves and provisions that have been set up in year, giving us a total overall net underspend of 41 million. Also, as indicated further on page 202, there's an additional 6.2 million pound underspend on capital financing, which again contributes to the overall net underspend. The full quantum of that grant support that I referred to can be referenced at 291 on page 203 of the report, where you can see that the cost and loss of income were largely equally and oppositely supported by grant income during the year from Welsh Government. And then further on from page 203 onwards, we can see the responses from our directors for the rationale for those net service underspends, the reasons for, and I think we've had some comments earlier on about the demand on services and the unprecedented demand on services, and if it wasn't for that additional grant support, I'm sure we'll be reporting a different position in respect of those services. And then on page 208 outlines the school's position, again reporting a very healthy net surplus, an underspend for the year, showing healthy changes year on year. However, this is to be mitigated by a word of caution about quite difficult financial headwinds facing our schools going forward. On page 210, the Section 151 officer outlines then the context for which that underspend is presented, in that on the face of it, an underspend would be a thing to welcome. However, noting what is identified on page 210, the financial headwinds that we're facing, both in terms of internal savings that we've previously identified and still need to deliver, inherent risks within the current budget round around ongoing uncertainties, but also external macroeconomic factors such as the previously referenced inflationary environment that we live in, with inflation going to record levels yesterday, impacting on lots of the goods and services that we need to deliver our services. Also, demographic issues, the latest census data, which is largely used to determine our share of settlement, etc. Population data shows that Swansea is a shrinking city in that regard. So going forward, again, it makes our share of any settlement more challenging. So it's on that basis and in that context that the Section 151 officer delivers that outturn position, and that largely frames and informs the recommendations that he makes in terms of transfers to reserves from page 211 onwards. In that the broad recommendation from the Section 151 officer is to transfer that underspend to a raft of named ring-fenced and discretionary reserves as outlined on the top of page 212, with a view to setting us fair moving into this financial year and the following financial years. I know cabinet members will be meeting with directors early in autumn to start in earnest the budget process, and this long-term strategy is a cornerstone of mitigating some of those pressures moving forward. Happy to take questions, Chair, and the recommendation is on page 199. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Dong. And can I thank again Ben Smith, yourself, and all the team that have worked so hard to ensure that these reports are prepared. And obviously, as you said, the significant variances in terms of some of the funding changes over the period, which have occurred as a tail end of COVID, and some of the other changes that Welsh Government have been able to make, which of course have been positive by and large. to the position for us and local government. As you referenced as well, Mr. Smith, the funding profile that was given to Wales by the UK government and then by Welsh government to local government is one that is front-loaded. So that's where we've seen a lot of funding come in the current year, but we have to be mindful that there isn't yet the confirmation of additional funding next year and the year after, and those are going to be real challenges for local government unless the Treasury adds to the money that's already proposed to be delivered to Wales and then on to local government. Facing us, of course, are those significant pressures of both the outturn from the pandemic, the cost of living, and all of the inflationary pressures that will be there for both service delivery, for the costs of employing people, and for the costs of materials of delivering stuff. So all of those are significant headwinds that are consequences of the decisions on Brexit and obviously the outturn of the pandemic, and we'll need to have to continue to mitigate those as best we can. Just one amendment from me. Obviously, the header sheet for this item is still showing corporate brief, and again, it needs to be a cabinet report, so we just need to amend that slightly. Again, happy to move the recommendation, but in doing so, I did want to draw members' attention to the reserves and to the variances that Mr. Dong referred to. Within that, there are significant proposals to bolster things like the Economic Recovery Fund, and members will know that that has been a hugely important fund for assisting Swansea, its communities, its businesses and its residents to recover and to help them come out of the pandemic. And as you'll see, the Recovery Fund is currently proposed to be bolstered by a further £24,705,000 as a result of the decisions we're being asked to make today. In addition, very pleased as well to see a further bolstering of the Capital Equalisation Reserve by a further £6.195 million. And as you know, we made a commitment to the people of Swansea that we would set up this reserve to offset any costs of delivering things like the arena and other major capital projects. And again, with the addition of this to the reserve, obviously that gives us the ability potentially to continue to provide for the repayments for borrowing long beyond the end of this term of this council. And again, that's a prudent commitment that we can make that has never been made by any other council, as far as as I'm aware, to give a commitment to cover the costs of borrowing and entirely protect taxpayers from that beyond the term of the council itself. There are some other smaller amounts in there, but still substantial and important amounts, as members will see, in terms of bolstering of reserves to help prepare for the headwinds that Mr. Dong mentioned. But I'm really pleased again to see us being able to enhance the Capital Equalisation Reserve and the Economic Recovery Fund, as I said, and members will be preparing bids on behalf of their communities to help us continue to deliver things like the £5 million for the upgrade of every play area in Swansea, for the delivery of £8 million worth of support to businesses to help them improve their shop frontages and facilities to improve their offer to shoppers and to communities, to deliver hundreds of schemes in communities to enhance the areas that people live in. So that is something unique to Swansea. There isn't a fund of this scale operating anywhere else in Wales, and we should be hugely proud that we've been able to deliver that as part of our prudent financial management of this council. So thank you again, Mr. Dong, for the work on this. Very happy to move the report, and I'll look to colleagues to second.
Yeah, thanks, Leader. I certainly would like to second this, but not just put on thanks to our finance officers, but personally put my thanks to yourself for the expertise that you've shown, particularly with finance throughout, and the difference you've made through the communities of Swansea, particularly out of our recovery fund, and enhancing play areas is just part of it. I think you've made a massive difference, and I really do appreciate all the efforts of my colleagues as well. So happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. Are there any other Cabinet members who want to ask questions or comment? If not, then Mr. Evans, we'll go to the vote, please.
Thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. Okay, I'll take any verbal votes that people need to make. In fact, I can see that you've all voted for, so it's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, colleagues. Go back now to Councillor Smith, and this next report, item 15, is the additional funding to requirements for the remodelling and refurbishment project for Bishopston Comprehensive School. Again, further evidence of our investment in schools. Councillor Smith.
Yes, thank you, Leader. And as you say, this is further investment of our further evidence of our investment in schools. Can I thank the authors of the report for bringing a very comprehensive and clear report for our consideration this morning. This refers to additional funding that is required to complete that project. It's a significant remodelling project in Bishopston that will provide facilities at that school moving forward for another generation that meet the 21st century needs. As the report indicates, a number of factors identified during the remodelling have identified cost pressures and increased costs arising from those works, and this is seeking funding to address those issues, Leader. So I would formally move the report.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I'm very happy to second and I agree with your comments entirely. Colleagues, is there anybody who wishes to comment or ask further questions on this report? If not, Mr. Evans, if we could launch the vote, please.
Thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. And that's unanimous, Leader. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Item 16 then, a further schools investment report. Capital programme authorisation for the commitment of funding to support the rollout of universal primary free school meals. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Leader. And again, I'm proud to be part of an administration that's helping deliver this administration's commitment and shared by that of the Welsh Government to universal free school meals. I remember when we were talking about bringing in free school breakfasts and the impact that had on some of the on our learners and some of the most deprived learners in Swansea in particular. This is taking this to a new dimension, and I'm proud to support it. Can I also thank our officers for their foresight? I don't know whether it's foresight or power of prophecy in undertaking the actions they did in securing some of the equipment in advance, and I think that has put us in a very good position to hit the ground running and deliver this from next September onwards. There are a number of challenges which remain. We know that in terms of capacity to deliver this, it's not something that can be done overnight. It's not easy, but it's certainly worthwhile, and I would therefore move the report, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I'm very happy to second this report, and I have to say, given the pressures that we talked about in the previous financial reports, this really brings home the impact of those pressures, where there will be many families who are now faced with even more difficult choices about how they use their limited resources, and the choices about whether they can provide their children with meals and whether they can provide them with, as you said, things like breakfast. I'm very pleased that we've got our Labour Welsh Government who's attempting to tackle that issue and putting the resources in together with local authorities to address this. It is going to take time for us to upgrade our school facilities to be able to cope with that increased demand, and we are well on our way to planning for that with Welsh Government. But you don't have to look far to see the alternative and how the Tories do not care about this issue and are not taking the same steps as the Labour Welsh Government in Wales we are doing to try and help families through this issue and provide children with not only breakfast at the start of the day, but free school meals during the day. And that is allowing our children to not miss out on the basics that they need in terms of being fed on a daily basis so they can learn properly in our schools. And I am very, very pleased that we are doing this, not without its challenges, but it is the right thing to do, and we will continue to work with Welsh Government to ensure it's successfully delivered. So thank you for that, Councillor Smith. I can see a couple of hands up. So Councillor Pugh next.
Yes, very, thank you, Leader. Very happy to see this coming forward today, and very pleased that the Welsh Government has brought this in, and really proud that as a local authority, we, really are taking the bull by the horns and getting on with this. It is hard. It's difficult. The schools need updating and expanding and all the sort of things that come with it, but it never has it been a more crucial time. We've coming out of COVID, all the deprivation that we know, all the worry that the teachers and everybody else had in COVID over the children and having food. And we see, like I mentioned earlier, our benefit system doesn't seem to be able to help people. Many families are just over the threshold, sometimes over by just £5, and therefore they can't have free school meals and they have to pay. And then we're going to be back to, can they afford to feed the children? We know many teachers are providing toast or fruit or things that just to help children through the day. So I am really, really proud that this has come in, and the difference it's going to make to children and their families is enormous. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pugh. Fully agree. Are there any other Cabinet members who wish to ask questions or make any comments on this item? If not, Mr. Evans, if we could go to the vote, please.
Thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. Are there any people need to vote verbally? I appear to be one short, so for absolute clarity, are you all for the report? Oh, they've all come in now anyway. Thank you very much. That's unanimous for, Leader.
Well, thank you all very much. We'll move then to the next item, item 18, which is the Economic Recovery Fund Performance Review 21-22.
Sorry, Leader. Page 249, item 17 is the next one.
My apologies, I've skipped over one report. The capital programme authorisation for the commitment for capital grant funding awarded for the community focused schools. Councillor Smith, apologies.
Yeah, I think people might be sick of my voice this morning, but no, again, it's a pleasure to be part of this. This is a commitment by this administration in terms of developing community schools. It was said earlier, it takes more than it takes a whole village to bring up a child. Well, this is confirmation of that. It's about more than buildings, and it's more than opening buildings for community use. It's about how our schools are responding to the communities in which they're located, the communities in which they serve. And it's a small grant, just over 1.4 million, but I think it will begin that work of enabling our schools to respond better to the growing and significant challenges which we know exist in communities across Swansea. So I would happily move the report, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Smith, and again, fully support and happy to second. And again, as you say, we've made just over the last few years £150 million investment, or I think it's nearly £180 million investment now in our schools, and they are major community facilities. And again, this grant will help us continue to open up those areas and those facilities to the wider community, so they can be used to the benefit of all. So, okay, I'll open it up then for comments and questions. Councillor Pugh.
Yes, very, very pleased to see this here today. I think, I think we can all go back in time where the schools were the heart of the village, that they were really integral to everything. And, this will help, I think, pull that back in, and the communities out there will really, really appreciate this. I'm sure it can't underestimate its value. Yes, it's a small grant in the relative grand scheme of things, but I think it'll have far wider, positive outcomes for it. I think this is a fantastic report, fantastic way forward. Happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Pugh. Are there any other Cabinet members who wish to comment or ask questions? If not, Mr. Evans, if we could launch the vote again, please.
Thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. and that is unanimous for, Leader.
Thank you, colleagues. On to item 18 then, which is the Economic Recovery Fund Performance Review 21-22. As you'll see, there are 4 recommendations there on page 254. And as we touched upon in the earlier discussions on the finances, the Economic Recovery Fund has been hugely successful in providing additional significant levels of support to communities, businesses and residents as we emerge from COVID. The report there covers some of the bolstering that we talked about, but also in the schedules on page 257 and 258, you can see the progress updates in terms of figures that have been allocated. Obviously, as you would expect, there has been a short hiatus during the pre-election period due to the fact that obviously when the election rules prevent political decisions being made during the pre-election period, there has been a short delay, but that fund is now again something that we can allocate. And as you can see there, there's an update in terms of business grants, the summer free bus scheme, and members will know that we have announced now that that scheme will return, and again help families get around Swansea, get everyone to get around Swansea actually for free on specific days during the summer and enjoy our beautiful facilities, coastline and areas. And there are a number of other big items in there that we've made previous political commitments on, not least the investment of an additional 5 million, taking our investment to 10 million on highways maintenance, allowing us to tackle issues in communities and improve local roads. 2 million for domiciliary care travel, again helping us to improve the availability of travel and vehicles for our domiciliary care workers. The lighting around our bay, we've promised to do that, and there's some 400,000 potentially we initially allocated or suggested for that. And obviously things like place efficiency, skate facilities, electric charging, and a number of other items that we've talked about previously. And again, those figures will be firmed up in due course. But those were the lists in terms of current unconfirmed pressures within that fund. And then I'll just draw your attention to the appendices, which you can see there, which list the very many items that have already been approved as part of the original recovery fund, and members will be familiar with many of those directly benefiting communities across Swansea. And as I said before, people shouldn't think it's like this everywhere, and actually they shouldn't think it's like this anywhere else, because we are unique in having a fund of this scale and putting it in the hands of communities to decide what is best for them in terms of how they respond to the challenges of the pandemic. So very happy to move the recommendations, and I'll look to colleagues for seconding.
Very happy to second, Leader.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Lewis, thank you. I can see Councillor Francis Davis's hand up. Councillor Francis.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to second, and I'm sure Councillor Lewis is. We're all happy to second this, I'm sure, because it is such a good scheme. As you say, it's the only scheme in Wales of this magnitude. And when you look at the list on the appendix, there's I was stopped walking along the road yesterday. Somebody came out of a business and said, "Thank you very much for the efforts that the council have done for helping us put a new front on our shop." And there's probably not a community within Swansea that is not benefiting from this. It might appear sometimes that we are a bit slow getting this money out, and we are, but it's the magnitude and the size of the applications for this that trying to get it out and making sure that we got good governance of this money. The staff have been working tirelessly to do this and get this money out, but it will make a huge difference of the look in our communities as well. You also mentioned play, and when one thing that COVID did showed us the importance of our parks. Our parks are going to look a bit tatty, a bit run down because of the many years of Tory austerity budgets that they tended to be neglected. it is only after COVID or during COVID, people going out, walking their dogs, going with their family, walking around, that they noticed how the parks were not like they remembered them when they were younger. We put in a budget for play equipment, which started off at £1 million, it soon became 2.2 million. I think by the end of this year, we perhaps 4 million or even £5 million that we will be spending in upgrading our parks, our play areas. And grandparents, parents, great-grandparents are really sort of appreciating what we're doing in those areas and restoring pride, but more importantly, giving our children the ability to go in and play in good conditions. We sign up to the rights of the child. Sometimes the people think they're just words that we sign up to, but this is actually putting into action the rights of the child, for the rights of the child to play. And I'm very proud of what we've done. The appendix, as you said, is just so much. I know that Councillor Lewis put a lot of effort into the pilot pop-up energy advice centres where officers, there's just probably no area that we haven't touched. The free use of sports facilities, the LED upgrades of our lights, and so much to come. So I think your imagination, your leader, backed up by the cabinet backing you up to deliver this, I think has been first class and something that all of us in Swansea should be proud of.
Thank you, Councillor Francis Davis. And yes, absolutely, cabinet members have really picked this up with members and to make sure that we have delivered on the aspirations that we had for this scheme. And again, I'm very pleased that it's going to continue for at least another year and that we have been able to refill that scheme with some more resources that people can now bid against for priorities in their community, because they are definitely things that we always intended to deliver. As you said, we had 10 years of austerity budgets forced upon us by the UK Tory government, and when we've been able to acquire the necessary resources, it just proves what this Labour administration can do when it has the resources. Okay, thank you, colleagues. Is there anybody else who wishes to come in on this item? If not, I'll ask Mr. Evans to launch the vote.
Thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. Okay, I can see a few who have managed to vote. Who's unable to vote? How are you going to vote? Councillor Roberts Davis? And that's it. That's unanimous for then, Leader. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. Item 19 then, which is the Place Efficiency Assessment 2022, a joint report between Cabinet Member for Investment, Regeneration, Tourism and Community Services. But I'll go to Councillor Francis Davis first on this one.
I'd like to thank the officers bringing this report. It's a statutory report that we must put in. Sing Cable and people like Jackie Rees-Thomas, who put a heart and soul into children's play. But I think there's other officers really are worth a mention. Kerry Davis in Parks, Christy Tillman, a whole host right across the different departments working together to ensure that when we pointed out the embarrassment, I think, of children's play previously, we've really gone to town on everybody working together. I think it's given the staff great satisfaction of being able to do their job, having the resources to do it. And I think it's really a pat on the back for us as a council, but most importantly for the children. There's been a lot of consultation. Well, as much consultation as one could do during the problems of COVID. You know, there could have been more, I suppose. There are some things highlighted here, things like we used to have a play bus that went round in more difficult to reach areas. We haven't got a play bus, so perhaps you're going to look forward to perhaps we could get a play bus back in the future to make sure that those rural areas are not forgotten and that we can get that play bus out to those children. But I have great pleasure in moving this, and when we look through on 3.6 summary of the tables, and it shows green and amber. There's not one red right the way through the report, and I think I don't think as many authorities can probably say that. There's far more green, but we can still improve. We can still do better. I personally will not be happy till all those boxes are green, but that we're going to make sure that is a priority and that we put the money into it. And I think what we've achieved over the last 2 years during COVID is getting those barriers broken down between the departments, working together to deliver on children's play. So I'm very proud of that work that's been carried out. I'd like to mention Councillor Andrew Stevens, who also has worked tirelessly on this to deliver. We actually talked to every single councillor through every ward, talked to every ward to see what they felt about children's play. And I think it made every councillor think more about it. And actually we have delivered and continue to deliver. But it won't stop here, Leader. We will be coming back asking for more money. As you know, we got to look at it. Is children's right to play a priority for us as a council? I certainly think it is, and I hope everybody else will think it is too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Francis Davis. Councillor Pugh.
Sorry, couldn't get my mic on then. Yes, and very happy to second this. And as somebody who's a retired health visitor who's been thoroughly behind the skills of the play worker for donkey's years, and those unique skills that comes with these qualifications, I'm really, really pleased to see this year today. For the last couple of years, the staff have really looked at the play sufficiency, really look, we know we've got a duty as a local authority to look at sufficient play, and the staff get it and they understand it. They've streamlined their services, they've looked at what is needed. We know through questionnaires that you know, people in the community were saying that there wasn't enough play facilities. Councillor Francis Davis just talked about the play bus going, you know, and things that are just crucial out there. And we have had to streamline, but I'm really pleased. And the staff are so much more content in their jobs. We've got somebody now going to look at what gaps are left and that we can do. And as you can see in the report, the action plan and everything. But this has been a fantastic piece of partnership work right across, as Councillor Davis had already mentioned, lots of people. But play is absolutely vital. And you know, in some of the events recently, they've now got a bus, it's a bus van for perhaps older children, and you can even play externally on the van, you know, PlayStation games, but it's that engagement, it's holding it once the young person's there, in you know, getting far more. So play is huge, and as a local authority to have this as a real sort of goal for us, I think puts us light years ahead of other people, and I'm really proud. And I would like to thank all the staff, because as Robert said, this is across many areas to pull this together, and their hearts are in the right place. They want to improve things for children.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Pugh. Councillor Gwilym, sorry, apologies, I should have come to you next. I didn't see your hand, apologies, but I'll come to you now.
Thank you, Leader. I don't want to repeat what everyone else has said, but clearly there's a lot of work that's gone into the report, and I'd just like to thank staff and officers. Obviously, I've come in late, so you know, it's nice to come in at a time when parks are being upgraded and there's lots of positives going on. I think we all recognise the importance of play on child development, and as previous councillors have mentioned, the table in 3.6, you know, there are some areas that are partially met, some of which are as a result of the pandemic, but it's really positive to see that there's a restructure going on, along with recruitment of a community play involvement officer, which will obviously look at those gaps. And in section 4, you know, it identifies identifies the work that's going on with partners, schools, community groups, promoting equality and inclusivity, the upgrades of outdoor play spaces, parks. And I was pleased actually to see an email that came recently with new Welsh language boards in Delabesh Park in Sketty, but they're going to be rolled out across all Swansea parks. So there's a lot of positives that are going on, and that report just identifies those. So it's going to be good looking towards the future with child play sufficiency. So I'd like to second the report.
Thank you, Councillor Gwilym. I would just say, I think, as was referenced in comments, this is a statutory report, and it's a template devised by the Welsh Government, and I guess whilst it has some good stuff in it, and our officers have done their best to tell the story, it's not the easiest template to try and navigate. So I think, as was referenced, I think the action plan and the broader reports that we have, which demonstrate how the investment is happening, how we are supporting communities, is probably easier for people to interrogate in terms of understanding what we're doing. But again, despite the template structure, I think it's still a very, very good position for us. Okay, thank you, colleagues. If there's nobody else who wishes to come in and ask questions or comments, then I'll ask Mr. Evans to launch the vote.
Thank you, Leader. Just a little technical hitch here. Computer says no. There you are. It's launched. Does anybody need to vote verbally? Councillor Rob Francis Davis. That's unanimous for, Leader. Thank you.
Again, thank you, colleagues. We'll go on then to item 20, which is the Welsh in Education Strategic Plan 22-23. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Leader. This is an identical plan to the one that was previously approved by Cabinet earlier this year. Since this report was prepared, I understand that the ministerial sign-off has now taken place and that this has been approved, which means that we have a document to work with moving forward, and there won't be a need, I don't think, for further amendments to this. But it is good to see that we have clarity on this now and that it has been accepted. So I would formally move, Leader.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Smith. And as you say, really good news that the Welsh Government approval appears to be in place now for this plan. And again, it's a further demonstration of our commitment to enhancing Welsh medium education across Swansea. So very happy to second. Are there any Cabinet members who wish to comment or ask questions on this report? If not, it's been moved and seconded. So, Mr. Evans, again, we'll go to the vote, please.
Thank you, Leader. The vote has been launched. Does anybody? No, that's unanimous for, Leader. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. And again, back to Councillor Smith for some further good news in terms of the installation of 3G pitch at Ulfa Comprehensive School. Councillor Smith.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to move the report. This is bringing another plan, a long-awaited plan into fruition, and I'm happy to see the progress has been made. And again, thank the officers for their contribution and for helping to move this forward. So I move the report, Leader.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Smith. And again, further demonstration of our commitment to bring ways of enhancing sports facilities across a number of our schools, estate, and innovative ways in some respects of delivering that, given the austere financial arrangements that have been around for a number of years. But like yourself, very pleased to see this investment coming forward. I think I saw Councillor Francis Davis's hand there. Councillor Francis Davis.
Yeah, I welcome this also. I think the Swansea is becoming an area that is well spread 3G pitch accessibility. There's still a few more, I think, that we need to, but I think in this area at Ulfa School there, very large school, a very big catchment area there, that this will be, I'm sure, welcomed. And I think education have done very well to get this. And I hope this will not still be the last, because we still got a rolling program that we need to put out. And I still look forward to seeing improved facilities at Pontedulais, and Ysgol Gavin Bryn Tower will be having a new 3G pitch there. It's not far off starting on that, and that's great, and be a real asset to the Penlan area as well. So I really welcome this, and it's been perhaps a bit of time coming, but they are very complex, some of these deals in which to pull off, and also pulling in other grants then from other areas. So welcome it. Thank you, Leader. Happy to second.
Thank you both. Okay, are there any other colleagues who wish to comment or ask questions? If not, again, Mr. Evans, if we could launch the vote.
Oh. Has anybody been unable to vote electronically? Okay, I can see that I have one that's not voted. So for clarity, are you all in favour? That's unanimous for, Leader.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have agenda item 22, which is exclusion of the public. You have the arguments as laid out by the Chief Legal Officer there. Can I ask you all happy to accept the recommendation?
Aye, happy to move.
Thank you very much. Then we will go into private session. Mr. Evans, if you'd like to cease the recording.